Welcome back to the Berg podcast. Thanks for joining us today. Today we've got myself, Bryan. We've got Ford.
Hey, how's it going?
And we've got Dan.
Hey, everybody.
And as we're getting close to the end of the year here, I just want to take some time, as we like to do as individuals, but take some time to share some thanks and appreciation for what our team's accomplished in the last 12 months.
Well, I will start out with, Thanksgiving starts the season of when you can really reflect on what has happened in the past 11 months at that point. And then you get towards the end of the year again, you have Christmas, and, you just have to kind of sit back every day. You're in the middle of things and you're just focusing on what's in front of you. And once in a while, you get a couple minutes to look up and just see where things have happened over the last year, how many people have been a part of that, both internally and externally. And, this is why we're doing this podcast, is that we can reach out to everybody, and we might not be able to get to see everybody on a daily basis and thank them for what they do. But this is one way where we can try and express that in all the different people within the team that it takes to get a job done, from the foreman's on the job to the bidding of it, to the project management, to the administration staff, to the accounting department and the shop and the trade vendors and the partners that help us on different things that we don't do. Like, if you start listing that, and then all the people within that, there could be a real long time to be able to do this. So just from the bottom of my personal heart and from us as a team, we just want to thank you for what you've been able to help us with, whether your job is to hold a laser level or a GPS stick or run a piece of equipment or enter numbers into a spreadsheet or call people and line up trucks. Every little piece is the part of the mosaic to make this happen.
Yeah, and to take that one step further, for it is, this has been yet another difficult year, right? I mean, we came into 2020, guns blazing, so to speak, feeling everything was great, and hit a pandemic, and it changed things, and we all thought, the turn of the calendar in 2020 to 2021, things were going to change and it was going to be different. And 2021 became maybe arguably more difficult than 2020 at times. So as we recognize people and their responsibilities and what they did for us, I think it's also important to recognize that as individuals, they were having to adjust their lives around some very difficult and always changing circumstances. Whether it be managing, school or lack of school, or, working from home for some of our spouses, or working in the field continually for our teams, and just balance all of that to continue to do their jobs and to be great team members and great supporters working together to be able to make this thing go. Because, as you said, it's become a process. It isn't five guys anymore. You know what I mean? It's everybody has their piece, and we need everybody to do their job individually. And when everybody does that, the team works well, and we're able to, provide good projects for our owners, for our clients, and really show what Berg is capable of in terms of the work we can do and the scope of work we can do in the area that we can cover. So,
Either of you guys listen to John Gordon? Does some podcasting, motivational speaker.
No, it's Bryan listens to podcasts and listens to music.
Yeah, well, I listen to a lot of music too.
You do.
So John Gordon, he does Energy Bus. I don't know if you're familiar with that one. Anyways, but he does a bunch of stuff. One of the things he talks about in regards to positive energy is doing what he calls a thank you walk. And I always thought that was like such a cool idea, and I've never done it. But as you guys were talking here, it made me sort of think about the idea of the thank you walk, right? And I think he does it every day. But, even if you did it once a week or once a month, the idea would be that, everyone you come into contact with or have an interaction with in regards to our organization here, you take the time to just thank them. Thank them for doing their job. Thank them for showing up. Thank them for, for being a part of our organization, contributing to our success. And it's like an actual verbal thank you, like it's not just like shooting them an email or say, hey, thanks, or it's, maybe you shake their hand or you actually take a moment and say thanks to everyone that you contact. But as you guys were talking, I'm thinking about our organization and how well, at some levels, how impossible that would be, right? I mean, I'm thinking about me personally, but I interact with like 7 people on an average business day, 7 out of the 72 or 70, 73, whatever we are now. So I get the opportunity to say thanks to about 10% of our workforce if I were to actually take the initiative to do that. And I can't think of a single time where I've gone out of my way to like just say thanks, even though I get to see him every day. So it's weird to me a little bit that we wait for like end of year opportunities or things like that to wrap up and say thanks. I don't know. I don't know why that struck me as odd as we're talking. You know, like it's the right message, and it's a great time to do it for sure because there's a lot to be thankful for because we had some people really show up this year, and it wasn't easy, but I think sometimes we forget in the moment to say thanks because we just, in some regards, we're very assuming, right? In some regard, we all come from a place, and I think we're in the right generation. We're at the tail end of a generation that still believes that you show up to do your job because you've got a job to do, not to get a thank you, not to be appreciated, so to speak. But that doesn't mean that we don't need to do that more thoughtfully or unprompted.
Well, I think what you're saying there, and the reason for the timing of it is that there's outside sources kind of helping us to remember that. When we're in the middle of our bubble or just doing work, it takes a clear and concise thought to do it because otherwise you're just in the middle doing what you're trying to get done. But, right now you have all the stuff around you. You have words like Thanksgiving, right there that just hits you in the face and has to kind of remind you of what that is. And during the other parts of the year, while it should be getting done, it's just not being put in front of you that's part of it. So I think that's also, and I think also because of us, the seasonality of our work, we're kind of winding down a couple of jobs. We're kind of putting things into perspective, and that really helps with the timing of the thing. But I think that, as you were saying, like, I grew up under someone that says when they get their paycheck, that's their thank you, right? So for me, it has to be a learned behavior.
52 times a year.
Exactly. For me, it's a learned behavior because it's not something that just came. And the other part is that, sometimes you see it from people and, part of that handshake or that thank you, the heartfeltness behind it makes a big difference onto what that means. Because if it's just a verbiage, it doesn't have that same depth to it. So I think that has to really be involved in it because if you just start, it's kind of like saying hi every time you walk to a job site, it's like after a while, it just catches old. So you're really trying to make sure that it's direct and specific when you do it.
Genuine, right? That's what you're looking for. I mean, you don't want it to be just doing something for the sake of doing it. I get that for sure. It makes a lot of sense.
And I think the other thing with this podcast is, like you said, you get to, interact daily with maybe 10%. I'm probably the same or less depending on day to day. Dan might have an option to hit some more people depending on his meetings, but that is this. We are a traveling, spread out group of people. When we try and have our different group get-togethers, it's interesting because that's only a couple times a year that we're all in the same place at the same time. We're little pods of groups of teams out all over the Tri-County, area, and so trying to actually get this message out to people. This is one of the reasons why we're doing what we're doing right now is because everybody has a chance to listen to this and hopefully be able to accept our thanks.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, this time of year seems like we actually have a time or maybe a few minutes to pick our heads up, right? A lot of the year, we're just sort of plowing ahead, trying to get through the work that has to be done. So it maybe doesn't mean we aren't grateful year round or aren't not thankful year round, but certainly have more time during this season to reflect.
Well, and I think one of the things that I really hope that we've been able to instill and sort of get out there as our feeling and then our intention, and then the other people carry that out further for us, is saying thank you at various times. when I get out there, I try and, appreciate what the guys do and say thank you, be seen, be genuine, as Ford's saying, so that people can really feel that I appreciate what they do every day. Cause, most of them are more skilled at what they do than I could be. And I think that our project managers and our foremen and our lead operators, they try and carry that same message out. So that's really where, in this idea of like a thank you walk, if you can just touch the people that you touch, and then they carry that out a little further, it can get to everybody. And I certainly hope out there, to the newest guys who just joined the team, all the way back to the first people that were hired, regardless of your employee number, so to speak, whether your number is in the teens or it's in the 260s or wherever we are now, that you can really appreciate that in giving the autonomy and trying to set this company up in a way that our operation runs efficiently and allows everybody to feel like they can own their piece, that you still get the genuine feeling of how much we appreciate what you do every day. Like Ford said, there's so many different groups of people. I mean, you can start with what's closest to you. When I say, obviously Ford, you and I interact every day. I interact for the most part with Brad and Scott and Shay every single day. Kelsey and Tracy every day. So, I mean, I think I could get to probably 15 to 20 people that every day I interact with a significant amount. But then you got other people who their piece runs and it does what it has to do. And you don't really talk to them a whole lot because you become so accustomed to them just owning their piece. And that's where I think you really need to step outside of your comfort zone and just make sure you go out of your way to make sure they know you appreciate what they do. Whether that's a JD who just sits there and has special project run with Scott, and JD just quietly just churns away at work, just job after job after job. While other people are sitting on jobs for 18 months, JD would be lucky to sit on a job for 18 hours, and you just lose sight of that. And then you go completely other side to John or Gary, have been doing this for 40 something plus years, and they just churn their job. They just keep going, just keep working, show up every day, and have their crews be representations of them, that operate like they operate. And so, you want to acknowledge that. And then you go a completely different direction and you look at, like Ford said about trucking, with Becca going out and having to call and schedule and get trucks, and all those sort of things. It's all the little pieces that make this go. But no piece is more important than any other piece. If any of those pieces don't work, we struggle. And really I don't know that 2021 can show you anything more than that. The struggles that we've had, how much we talk about supply chain issues and other issues in the planning that's required now because of it. But it just shows you how something that you would view as insignificant, right? I'm going to go get a piece of pipe. Well, maybe you are, or maybe there's no pipe. I'm going to get a structure. A piece that you didn't even realize could be a problem has created massive issues in what our guys have to do every day because they have to account for it in a different way. And I think that's equally important with our team, that there's people who have responsibilities that we just take for granted what they do. I mean, on your side, if Kelly's sitting in Ohio, if Kelly doesn't do Kelly's job, none of us get paid. You know what I mean? But none of us think about that until something goes wrong, which rarely happens, but at times it happens. But Kelly just does her job every single week. And if she didn't, none of us would get paid. There'd be a lot of unhappy people.
I think we're all grateful for that.
Yeah.
Well, and I think two things that tie back into that, like this year has been unique. I mean, we're now in the second year of being unique, but it is, people, clients, people on the street, everyone is at a stress level of 10. Just the last couple of months we've been through here, just trying to get jobs wrapped up and the stress that people have felt. And, that's not the goal, but was a reality of what happened. And we were able to get through it. We got to the other side on a lot of those challenges. But during that time, it's, that's when it really, the rubber hits the road, and you got to make sure that that's when the people feel it the most, I think. And that's why I think right now it's so important to try and just get this message out there to everybody.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things we talk about internally as a group and is that aligning for automation or automated processes, right? Where you get the right people in the right places with the right responsibilities, and then we can just let them do it. Some of that ownership mentality. And I think part of what that creates is a great environment for our folks, because we're giving them the freedom to use their skills. But on the flip side of that might also create the opportunity for complacency in being grateful or thanking them. I think that's what you're saying, Dan. A little bit like, get a guy who just shows up every day, does his job. You don't have to have a lot of interaction with him. Doesn't mean we're not thankful. Just means that we've got to maybe be more intentional about saying thanks. So
yeah, and I mean, I'm going to give you the best example for me personally. And as a group, I'm equally responsible for and accountable for what Berg produces, whether it's special projects, paving, commercial, or landfill. But just as it happens, Gary is closing out the major portion of SECRA, and he gives me the best visual that I can really get to you, Bryan, which is he just moved more dirt than we've ever moved. Like, we have never moved as much dirt as we just moved. And quite honestly, like, I feel like I probably shouldn't say it on a podcast. We did it without a construction meeting. There wasn't one construction meeting. I mean, I didn't have a pre-construction meeting. I had no meetings. And I'm the project manager still of that division. But Gary is so efficient in what he does that Gary not only did his job, he did my job. And then you had Gary's guys, whether that be Greg, we'd say Greg's an operator, right? Whether it be Greg's acting like a superintendent at times for Gary, and then you got, Chad was out for a couple of weeks, and you got Tyler jumping in a 490 Traco. I was just talking to Ford about this today, in a 490 Traco loading triaxles. You got Bob Wakely and Robbie, who now are dozer operators. In other words, Gary has brought his whole team along, and you just can't be thankful enough for a team that can do that. And we're seeing that with John at Longwood. We're seeing it with Scott doing it in the commercial division, bringing Andrew along and some of the other guys. You're seeing it with JD as JD continues to build special projects into a larger piece of what we do again, because he's able to get guys in the right positions in the right spots. Paving, we've worked through the issues we had. We all know we've had issues this year, and there's no reason to duck that or hide that. But the reality is, Shay and that team were able to get us to the finish line and work together with Brad and Mike and Scott to get our jobs paved and curbed. And ironically, we may be in better position right now than we normally are at the end of a year, having had so many issues with our paving division in the second half, because our team embraced that there was an issue, they addressed it, and they came up with a plan proactively in how they were going to approach that and get it done. And they succeeded. So even as we struggled, we watched our teams grow and work through it. And really, I don't know how much more you can ask of a team. So, I certainly appreciate everything they've done to get us to that point, whether it be, like I said, special projects, paving, landfill, commercial. It's just been a great job by the field.
No, I think that is self-evident with some of the stuff that we get done. But there's people that, external to the company, we also want to thank, not that they're going to maybe listen to this, but, we've had some vendors come through with things when we didn't expect them to. We've had some trade partners, or whatever you want to call subcontractors to us, that have been able to help us out in different scenarios when we needed some extra people, like Tony from Hidden Springs, and what he was able to help us with, filling in some gaps that we needed as we got through this year. And as we, adjusted and grown a little bit in size, all of these other people have also, been able to be part of this, even if they might not work for Berg directly. But that is also, how you can get something done, is that we have to work collectively, not just internally, but with the external group. And then while we're here, you two guys and all the great job you guys have done trying to keep us the wheels on the bus as we've gone through all the different challenges with the paperwork side, and just keeping people, trying to keep jobs open during some challenges. I just want to personally thank you guys as well.
Sounds good. It sounds like a good place to wrap it up. A lot to be grateful for this season. So from inside the podcast group here to the rest of the team, thank you for your contributions this year. We look forward to more opportunities to say thank you.
Thanks. Merry Christmas, guys.